Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out AmItheA whole. Story 1. Ida for not wanting to talk to a boy in the class. This is a tricky situation. Fake names I-17F, go to a TAF, Australian Education Centre, at the start of the year. Josh, 18M, moved to the TAFE. I have been attending TAFE since September 2022. Josh at first was seemingly off, but my friend Sarah and I wanted to make him feel welcome, so we exchanged Snapchat accounts with him. Big mistake. He would snap me multiple times a day even when I leave it undelivered or opened. I mistakenly had my location on and he would always ask where I am and who I'm with. During TAFE, he would follow me, randomly trauma dump, ask me details about my S3X life and try and get so much weird information out of me. My breaking point was when he showed me a TikTok of a 14-15-year-old and was talking about wanting to lose his virginity to her. I walked away and left TAFE early. Sarah was absent. All the girls in the class mentioned how he would also follow them. One particular girl, Izzy, had a friend who went to school with him before he moved and he stalked her for months, then eventually trashed her front garden. They're local, the TAFE is 1H away. Now, I have a class with just him and people a grade under. On Tuesdays, he would follow me, watch me. When I made my boundaries clear, he wouldn't stop. I told the teacher and principal everything and I feel things have escalated. On the Monday and Friday class he would just watch me. Sarah is only in the Monday and Friday class with me and we never leave each other's sides. He denied everything to the teacher and now the teacher is wanting me to engage with him. I'm now 18FBTW, and refused. Now he will try and talk to me. On Monday at home time I said bye to Sarah and then he paced to follow closely behind me out of TAF and I pretended to talk on the phone and he walked away. Sarah witnessed this. I don't feel safe being without my friends, whole class except him. I always have to have someone with me now. So, Ida. Story 2. Wibda for telling my sil she chose this. Throwaway, for obvious reasons. My husband's family have a large multi-generational farm. The farm is being passed to my husband in its entirety, mostly because he's always been the one to work it, help out where he can, and step up to help with non-farm related issues when needed. He was managing the farm while still a teen. His sister is the total opposite. She, nor her husband, has ever lifted a finger to help, farm-related or otherwise, takes what she can get, has spent decades running her parents down to anyone who will listen, and always plays the victim. Sil has looked down her nose at her parents for all the years I've known her. They weren't the kind of parents or grandparents that she thought they should be. They were poor and embarrassing to her. My husband's family are a bit eccentric, fairly reserved, and very non-confrontational. Most will talk about you behind your back while smiling to your face, but they typically keep it within the family except for Sil. To her, we're all trash and beneath her, until she wants something. She's recently learned the plans were finalized, set in stone at this point, for the farm and is obviously upset. We all know the big blow-up is coming soon. She and I have never gotten along. I come from a family where we say what we mean and aren't fake, so I've been expected to bite my tongue for what feels like an eternity to me. I typically just avoid her or ignore the constant jabs and playing the victim when I can't, but avoiding her seems like an unlikely possibility in this case and I'm not sure how much more I can bite my tongue. Part of me feels bad for her. I believe her grandma and aunt fed her insecurities in order to alienate her from her parents/brother to make themselves more special to her. They catered to her temper tantrums and unrealistic expectations because they knew they couldn't manipulate my husband as easily. The aunt couldn't have children of her own, GMA only had the 2 grandkids. I grew up with a golden child, who did nothing to be treated better other than being born male, so I know that taints my perspective. But I've watched my husband pour blood, sweat, and tears into this farm for decades while she's only taken what she can from it. She has made the choice, over and over again, to alienate anyone that doesn't cater to her whims and fluff her ego. She is one of the most negative people I've ever met. The only times she speaks well of someone is to talk about how great they are because they complimented her, or if she's talking about herself or her husband. She even turned on her own kid when his lifestyle didn't follow her religious views. So AmItheA, if, when this all blows up, I tell her she made the choices that led to it and chose having her ego fluffed over attempting to repair the relationships? I mean, she'd already set those relationships on fire before I came along, but I've watched her torch any possibility of a different outcome repeatedly over the years. Edit. I want to clarify I have no plans to see out the interaction, I'm expecting her to bring it to me. I'd rather dodge the whole thing. Edit number 2, so apparently we're all here. I can accept that as it's a effed up family dynamic here, one I've struggled with for years. I did find it sad to learn how common it apparently is to see in-laws as not real family and that they should just silently endure the family's BS. It makes me appreciate the family I come from and the one I built all the more, though. My side definitely has its issues, but treating in-laws as second-class family or outsiders isn't on the list. Thanks to those who took the time to respond. As someone who's been a lifelong people watcher, it's definitely been interesting. Story 3. AmItheA for trying to voice my opinion with my mother. A couple months ago, I, 13F, was having a conversation with my mother, 34F. I was talking about how I hated having to learn math that I'm never going to use in life. I'm homeschooled, and pretty isolated, frowny face. The conversation eventually got a little tense, mind you that I wasn't trying being rude or anything, and it evolved into something like this. Mom, well, you'd have to learn how to flip burgers if you were to work for McDonald's. That's something you're never going to use in life. Me, yeah, but that's for making food. That's way more important than math. I would probably flip burgers to cook for myself, or at a barbecue or something. Mom, pure silence, and a cold glare, as if I just fucked up big time. Me, internal thoughts, oh good gods, I should have just agreed with her, she's gonna be mad at me now. Mom, whelp, if you have an attitude like that, then you might as well be a 600-pound Debbie Downer. Not even 3 during hours later. Mom, why are you acting all mopey and depressive? This whole interaction is what's really sent me into my body dysphoria. There's been other stuff like this that's happened that I'll probably post if I have time. My parents have no idea that I have this ACC, I practically have a double internet life LMAO. Story 4. AmItheA for telling my 25F partner, 26M, he still needs to move out after news he received. My partner and I broke up about 3 weeks ago. He's just not good for my mental health and has put me through a lot. We discussed him needing to move out of my apartment as soon as possible. Well, he's been complaining about health-related stuff for a while now but is so avoidant of medical care. He finally went and was told he has a pea-sized mass in his brain causing his symptoms. He refuses to go back to the doctor and think if he ignores it won't impact him. I told him I'll still be there for him and support him / go to appointments with him, but he needs to move out. I'm really not a heartless bitch, but our relationship ran my mental health into the ground and I'm barely hanging on. AmItheA for tell him he needs to move out still? Story 5. AmItheA for getting a houseless guy kicked out of a truck stop. My husband, 36M, and I, 29F, are traveling in our motorhome to spend Thanksgiving with his family in his hometown in the northeastern US. We are bringing our 2 dogs, one of whom is a senior and who has been stressed out by the trip. We've tried to keep it as calm as possible for her, and have tried stopping to take her for walks as often as possible to get her out of the car. Tonight, when we pulled into a local truck stop to fuel up and stretch our legs, we stepped out to take the dogs into the fenced-in, empty dog park area to run around. As we crossed the parking lot and headed into the dog park, a man in a car watched us with his window rolled down. He was parked beneath one of the lights, so it was pretty easy to spot him glaring at us. He was clearly living in the car, with clothes and bags stacked in the back seat and with various items piled onto his dashboard. It was obvious he was intending to sleep there, so I figured he was just concerned the dogs would be loud or otherwise bother him, but he said nothing. However, the moment we passed in front of his car on our way back from the dog park, he flicked on his brights and honked his horn twice. It scared the hell out of our senior dog, who jumped and tucked her tail between her legs, shaking. The guy was laughing about it in his seat. My husband called him an asshole, but the guy gave my husband the finger and told him to go fuck himself. This is where I may be the asshole. I normally wouldn't harass someone who already is clearly having a tough time, but having him further stress out my old girl pissed me off. I went inside the store portion of the truck stop and explained to the manager what had happened, making it very clear that the guy was causing a disturbance that could wake up other people by honking his horn and was being purposely malicious. The manager said he'd handle it, and would go out to have a chat with the driver. The guy in the car drove away after a minute or two of animated conversation with the manager. There aren't any other truck stops nearby, and the rest areas near here are pretty vigilant about no overnighting, so I'm sure the guy has a long while of driving ahead of him before he can sleep. I feel guilty about acting in anger before really considering what the consequences would mean for the guy. Ida for getting a clearly houseless guy kicked out of a truck stop for purposely scaring my dog? Story 6. Ida for calling my brother-in-law a misogynist. I, F28, just got laid off work about a month ago and got offered the opportunity to move in with my younger sister, F23, and her husband, M25. They don't have kids yet, so my sister offered me the spare room while I look for a job. After a few days I noticed him making small remarks about things around the house changing. We'd never had any personal conflict for as long as I've known him, but he's quite traditionalist about the household chores. He usually works 5 to 6 days a week as an engineer and my sister works part-time at a daycare in the mornings. So main issue is he's the only one with a car because my sister doesn't drive and he drops her off in the mornings, she then takes the bus back home. I try to be as helpful as I can around the house cleaning, but I can't cook the meals my brother-in-law wants or likes. Which is why my sister does pretty much all the cooking as she usually would. Now I feel pretty useless as I'm just cleaning or sitting around, and when I mentioned this to them he said I should fetch the groceries. I tried to tell him he is the one with the car and getting groceries is almost impossible on the bus. I told him he could easily drive all of us there in the evening and we could get everything we needed at once. He said I was being lazy and not doing any of my duties at home, so I called him out for his ancient views and called him a misogynist who needs to get with the times. My sister has now sided with her husband and says I should apologize and be grateful as it is. Ida? That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.